Arctic night, the aurora often flames across the winter sky. What is it, and where does it come from? This is where the tale of the aurora starts. On the sun, a star of average size among billions of other stars in our Milky Way. The sun acts as an enormous power plant. The energy is created deep inside the core of the sun. Here, the temperature is over 14 million degrees, and the pressure is so enormous that hydrogen atoms are squeezed together into another element, helium. This nuclear reaction releases energy. The light radiates outward from the core of the sun. In the outer layer, the heat moves to the surface in a huge helix called convection cells. These electrical currents of charged gas create magnetic fields inside the sun. In some places, strong magnetic fields push their way up through the surface. They slow down the helix of hot gas. The surface cools and darker sunspots appear. The electrically charged gas is called plasma. The plasma drags the magnetic field further outwards. The magnetic field stretches and twists like a rubber band. Then, the rubber band breaks. Several billion tons of plasma are hurled from the sun. This is called a solar storm. The solar storm can reach speeds over 8 million kilometers an hour. After 6 hours, it blows past the planet Mercury. After 12 hours, the planet Venus. Intense northern lights are a result of intense solar activity, what we call a solar storm. When a solar storm reaches our magnetic shield. After 18 hours, the solar storm reaches Earth. When the solar storm reaches our planet, something strange happens. An invisible shield, the Earth's magnetic field, deflects the storm. The magnetic fields couple together and create a funnel for the gas streams down on the daylight side of the pole. This is the daylight aurora. The magnetic fields stretch further back and couple together. The magnetic rubber band breaks, and gas from the solar storm streams along the magnetic lines towards the poles on the night side. This is the nighttime aurora.
Mythology. The aurora is a phenomenon that never ceases to mesmerize. Even the origin of the scientific name for the lights, Aurora Borealis, is fascinating. The term Aurora Borealis dates back to Galileo's times. Aurora is the Roman goddess of dawn, that every day races across the sky in her chariot, announcing the breaking of a new day. Borealis comes instead from the Greek Borea, the god of the northern wind. Aurora Borealis means therefore northern dawn, a fitting definition for the phenomenon that lights up the northern night sky. The northern lights have influenced folklore and stories across the Arctic through the ages. Before man could explain the origin of the auroras through science, people invented stories to make sense of their existence. Many found the lights captivating, some even heavenly. Others were not so positively impressed and painted them as terrifying omens. In northern Europe and the North Atlantic, the aurora has inspired some fascinating tales. The Vikings celebrated the lights, believing they were earthly manifestations of their gods. The Swedes thought of them as signs of abundant sea catches, and the Finns saw the lights as fire foxes playing in the snow. In Greenland, colorful spirits would be seen dancing in the sky, lighting up the winter nights. In Iceland, We believe the aurora would ease the pain at childbirth, but beware of the lights while expecting. Kids would be born cross-eyed if their mothers looked at the lights directly during pregnancy. A small number of traditions feared the northern lights instead, especially the rare red ones, telling stories of their dangers and evil. In North America, various populations believe the northern lights were the souls of departed ancestors, or even the spirits of the animals they hunted. Some traditions spoke of the northern lights as a sign from the gods, something like the visible mark of their existence and care for the humankind. In northern Asia, the lights were often connected to good luck and fertility, and their appearance was seen as a blessing from the skies. Whichever tale captures your imagination, one thing is certain: the northern lights had great meaning in ancient Nordic societies. In their various forms and conceptions, from spiritual to evil, the lights were seen as mysterious and fascinating as they still are today. Does the aurora produce sound? Observers have long wondered whether the Aurora Borealis produces any discernible sound. Settlements across northern latitudes reported for centuries that sound sometimes accompanied the northern lights. Witnesses told of a quiet, almost imperceptible crackling, whooshing or whizzing noise during particularly violent northern lights displays. Still in the 18th century, reports of exceptional red northern lights in Scotland, producing a noise as of huge armies battling in the sky, sparkled superstition and fear, and was later believed to have foretold the massacres of the French Revolution. Auroral noise became the subject of debate in the first decades of the 20th century, and was generally dismissed by scientists, and referred to as folklore or auditory illusion. Data recorded around that time suggested that the lights commonly took place 100 kilometers above the Earth, and very rarely below 80 kilometers. The idea that an aurora could transmit sound to the ground from up there was regarded as impossible. Canadian astronomer Clarence Chant became instead fascinated with auroral sounds reports from around the Arctic. In his research, he argued that the motion of the northern lights alters Earth's magnetic field and changes the electrification of the atmosphere, producing a crackling sound. According to this theory, sound would be created closer to the Earth's surface when the modified electrification meets objects on the ground, from clothes and trees to the cladding on building, much like static. Chant's paper went largely unnoticed in the 1920s, but is widely accepted by scientists today, although there's still debate as to how exactly the mechanism for producing the sound operates. The theory is also supported by the occasional reports of ozone smell, a metallic odor similar to an electrical spark, during extreme northern lights displays. In recent times, various attempts at recording the sound of the aurora have been made. In 2016, a Finnish study allegedly captured the sound made by the northern lights just 70 meters above ground level. If you want to hear the northern lights for yourself, keep in mind that this is an exceptional occurrence. You may have to spend a considerable amount of time in the polar regions, since sound is only present in 5% of all violent aurora, and mostly heard on the top of mountains, surrounded by just a few buildings.